You can't make mistakes and expect to win. And I'm amazed we even had a chance to tie the game or even possibly win it at the end of regulation. Made no sense to me, but we'll roll through it. I have my first half reactions recorded during halftime. Go ahead and get to the second half, the media, the final thoughts. But overall, um, rather disappointed in week one versus the Cards. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. So while the halftime show's winding down, this is me just popping in here real quick to give you my impression of the first half. For the most part, one of the things I was worried about is, can we make big plays? Can we stop them from making big plays? And more importantly, can we stop explosive plays that troubled us last year? Started out well in the first quarter. When you're looking at the kind of looking at 10 plus yards on the big plays, 20 plus or more for explosive. Saints had four big ones at 10 plus, nothing above, nothing longer than 20. We had Rattler to Johnson for 11, Rattler to Olave for 13, Miller with a 10-yard run, Rattler to Cooks for 12 yards. Cardinals actually only had three plays, 10 plus, no explosive plays going 20 plus or more. Murray McBride for 11, Murray on a 13-yard run, Connor on a 12-yard run. Now, on that Murray 13-yard run, one thing I'll say on that is we did a great job in that first half, except for that one play of playing this new style of defense with a lot of guys no longer having their backs to the quarterback, but facing, having eyes on. We had a legitimate sack on a play by Cam Jordan. I say legitimate, all three of them are. But the other two were where he was trying to scramble out of there. We did a good job of rallying up, and he ends up, one of them running out of bounds, one of them sliding before getting back to the line of scrimmage. So technically, we get credit for sacks on that, but more importantly, we held him in check, except for that one where he had the 12-yard run. The second quarter, yeah, look, we started off early. We got a big play, that 18-yard touchdown run by Alvin. We had Rattler to Olave for 11 yards a little later on, and then the only 20-yard plus play we've had this whole game was Kendre Miller's 35-yard kickoff return. So if you want to count that one, yeah, you had one explosive play, but really we only had two big plays from the offense: the touchdown run, and the pass to Olave. The Cards put up four big plays, and two of them were explosive, and both those explosives came back to haunt us. And that, they had McBride caught one for 12, Harrison caught one for 12, but it was really both of them. Harrison on that 45-yarder that led to their first touchdown, and McBride, the 25-yarder on their second touchdown drive, where we helped them out by missing a tackle or two towards the end of that thing. Overall, I was just kind of looking at a couple of key stats at halftime, and I marked them in the first quarter, and then to compare them what they turned out to be in the second half. But time of possession, the Cards had us 9 minutes and 4 seconds to 5 minutes, 56 seconds in the first quarter. Penalties, they were 3 for 15. We were 4 for 33. Rushing, we ran at 6 for 32 yards. They ran at 7 for 31 yards. So we went 5.3 a rush. They went 4.4. When you add in the second quarter stats, the total jumped to our time of possession, 12 minutes, 11 seconds. They're 17 minutes, 49 seconds. But we're actually not really making up ground there. Penalties, we had 8 for 59. That's becoming a huge problem. It was a big problem in the first quarter. It was a bigger problem in the second quarter, and a lot of them were just stupid shit we shouldn't have been doing, either along the offensive line or the receivers not lining up, or in the case of all people, Eric McCoy screwing up snapping a ball early that luckily Rattler was able to corral it and it wasn't a turnover. But because of the early snap, we still had guys moving and not on the line of scrimmage, et cetera. Some really boneheaded stuff. Radon's lining up off sides to take a first down off the board for us on the tush push. So those penalties really started stacking up badly and costing us. Meanwhile, they went from 3 for 15 to 4 for 25 total. They only had one 10-yard penalty in the second quarter. Rushing, we were 11 for 69. They were 13 for 50. So our average yards per rush actually went up to 6.3. Theirs went down to 3.84. What I look at that is, if we could control the clock a little better and eliminate the stupid penalties, and that has a lot to do with us controlling the clock, because we killed some drives and some possibility of keeping drives moving and burning more clock. You can't do that. That's been a problem. I was hoping we wouldn't see it. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to market him. We saw it way too much in this first half. For the most part, I thought the Saints defense was solid. Just two plays really came back to bite us on the butt. I think we did a fairly good job of keeping our eyes, like I said, on Murray, except for the 112-yard run where we let him get away. But late in that second half, even though he wasn't really hitting an explosive run or scramble on us, a couple plays he did a great job of keeping something alive in the pocket to make a completion on us. And we need to get back to that pressure where he can't do that, because for a good chunk of the first quarter towards the end and it briefly once or twice in the second quarter, we did a good job. But by far, we were way better at it in the first. Both teams are playing extremely physical. That is some hard hitting going on out there, and I'm very, very pleased to see that the Saints are doing it and they're responding okay when the other team is just basically being as physical as they are. The penalties, killer, momentum killers, and we're not good enough to overcome a lot of them. Look, you get the two interference calls because we were grabbing jerseys and tugging on them. Please let them go at some point so they're not so obvious. But everything else, stuff that never should have happened along the penalty front. So we're still in this game, and probably I've already missed the second half kickoff, so I'll have to go unpause the TV and catch up. But I think we're still in this game, but we've got to play better because we're just not good enough. Even the missed tackles were minimum compared to shit we used to see. You still got to eliminate the stupid penalties. Give yourself a chance in the second half. Like I said, they probably just kicked off. Hopefully we get the ball and go down and score, because the last thing I'm going to say, and I mentioned this on the video the other day, doing stuff to keep the crowd in the game, and the crowd, at times, the defense really had that crowd in there, and you could see that and some of the pressure looks we were given does affect Murray. We've got to do that. We just can't let him begin to operate freely. So tighten up some stuff, stop with the penalties, play hard as hard as you were playing in the first half. Let's see how this thing turns out. I was very ambitious when I did the rundown card for this morning. Yeah, that second half immediate reaction, it didn't happen. Sorry. I tried. I was at the end of the game. I wasn't mentally fit at the moment to be able to shoot a video and be coherent and not drop F-bombs galore, because that's the point where I was heading. Because, look, we all saw the game. We know what's going on here. And it reminds me, my aggravation is too much in some ways of what we saw the last 2, 3, 4+ years. But in other ways, there's just like a little bit of sliver of hope here or there, which is driving me nuts, because it's almost like worse going, just what I was tracking in the first half when we were looking at the first quarter and the total first half, it's just some numbers, time of possession. It was still crappy. They held the ball. Penalties, 13 total for us on the game and 89 yards, which is kind of surprising. There isn't more penalty yards associated with 13 penalties, but still, it was enough to cause problem, especially when almost 50% of them were procedural problems. Jumping on illegal procedure, lining up incorrectly, etc. All stuff that just shouldn't happen. Our rushing attack, if you'd have told me going into this game, hey, 22 for 107, 4.8, rounded up 4.9 yards a carry, I'm all aboard. I'm just wondering why did we only run it 22 times? Did we really master time of possession? No, not hardly. Defensively, it was a lot of the same in the first half, where you for the most part, you did a lot of things right. You definitely held them off the board. They only had 5 possessions in the second half. They made a field goal. Brian Brzee made one sensational, incredible block to keep them from getting another one, because Ryland looked like he wasn't going to miss today. And then you held them to 3 punts. They gained yards. They held the ball. They kept it away from you, but they didn't really hurt you a lot. They hurt you enough going up 2 scores with that field goal to make it 20-10, and that put a lot of strain and pressure on offense. But oddly enough, with the mistakes and with that happening, you still gave yourself a chance to win this game at the second to last play of regulation, at least to tie it. Send it in overtime if you wanted to go that route, or try to win it by going for 2. 46 pass attempts against those 22 rushing attempts. Not good. We know this team is not going to win very many football games. I'm amazed you managed to stay in this football game, rolling out twice as many pass attempts as rushing attempts. We're not there yet. That's not what we need to do. Okay, especially since when you were trying to throw the ball those 46 times, you really didn't have much of an ability. And I should mention, I'm doing all this without watching film. This is just watching the game that finished a little while ago, but I feel confident in this. I'll verify with video at a later date. But those 46 attempts, she did very, very little. No real ability to spread the field vertically or even horizontally in your passing game. Nothing. You just could not find any real space in any consistent measure to gain chunk plays when you needed to. Now, part of that problem, when you went down by 2 scores, they were just kind of deciding, hey, well, we're not going to let you throw it over the top. We're going to still try to bring as much pressure, especially to stop the run, because we don't want you getting ahead of the chains. And kind of giving up that intermediate passing. We did hit some plays in the arm, like slants and things like that. But for the most part, they were like, we're not going to give up any cheap ones. Penalties, killing drives and missing that 39-yard field goal by Groupie. These are the type of things that add up to that point that even though it was only a 10-point game, it seemed worse. In allowing them, I think they were just figuring, look, as long as we don't give up an explosive play, more on that later, they've got to score twice while still trying to get the ball back from our offense while we're chewing clock, because that's basically what they did in the second half. Defensively, and this is where the explosive plays come in. Look, you did enough to keep yourself in the game, but those 3 explosive plays prevented the defense from being able to win the game for us, because that's kind of the feeling I was getting through most of the second half. Going, defense doesn't, like I was hoping for a pick 6 or something. Going, we're struggling to move the ball consistently in offense. It's up to the defense, who's doing pretty good, but the 3 plays were all backbreakers, where you gave up a 45-yarder to Harrison that leads to their first touchdown. You miss a tackle to allow Rattler and McBride to turn a completion that likely was close to a first down into an easy first down where he picks up 25 total yards. That was on their second touchdown drive. Their one scoring drive of the second half, where they kicked the field goal, total drive was 49 yards on 5 plays. 4 of those plays were for -3 yards, and Benson hit the 52-yard run to lead to the field goal. Frustrating, mad, just drives me crazy. Then Kellen Moore, and I'm just glossing over. I watched a lot of the media stuff, and it was frustrating me all over again. But it's basically and this is his quote. The lesson is you can't beat yourself. 13 penalties, got a lot of work to do. No kidding. Okay. Now, he did typically what he does is, even when they were trying to press him on questions or, he danced around. He did his coach speak stuff. He's very good at it. But look, as obvious as that answer was, yeah, we all know. We all watched the game. Y'all played in it. Y'all coached it. We're all in agreement here that, yeah, you can't beat yourself. And that was a problem. But you did things outside the penalties that also help beat yourself. That's a problem. But the real problem is we've been hearing stuff like this after many games over the last 3, 4, 5 seasons, whatever. It just gets to be an old song and dance that quite frankly gives me a migraine, which I'm developing one right now. Got to fix that at some point. You chop that in half. 6 penalties. Only 3 of the procedural instead of having a total of 6. You almost feel like you get the 7 points back, and somewhere along the way you've got a tie game going into the end. I don't know, but it seems like it, because again, with that much problems, I'm amazed we got that close. They asked him again about his, and they took a couple chances at it about not burning any timeouts for the first half, which that annoyed me. His answer to when they entered the little interview person asked him on his way to the locker room, about that, and he reiterated this when the media asked him about it. It was basically, oh, they had 3 timeouts, so we were, hoping to stop them, but going to let them run clock down, and we had 3, and if there wasn't a lot of time left, we're going to try to pop a big play, and if we did, then we'd have our timeouts to try to go down the field and score points, yada yada yada. My only issue is, okay, look, I get it. You don't want to get caught in a situation where you leave too much time, you can't move the ball, you give it back to them, and they have a few timeouts left to try to go score again. Got it. But I think you could have burned at least one somewhere in there. Try to save a little time, and maybe even have Staley a chance to maybe set up a little bit of a defense on that in there. So, perfect world, you hold them to a field goal, even though you minute 50, 40 seconds, somewhere in there left. They're kicking off to you. You have 2 timeouts left. Let's go from there and see if we can, hit the first play and gain some significant yardage where we can try to roll it down the field and get points out of it before half. It's almost like he didn't even try. Was he trying to protect Rattler? That's what the TV broadcast guys were thinking. That's what they were putting out there. And some of the media, they asked him about it, and he just kind of sidestepped it and moved on like we figured he would. But it is a little concerning to me. Maybe that was the case. Like I said, I would have preferred, let's burn one and try to give ourselves a chance with an out where, okay, we can't do it. We might have to run the ball a couple times, kneel it, whatever, let them burn some timeouts, punt it back to them, and they get it back with 5 seconds left. So, wrap this up so I can just get away from it a little bit, this game. But the final thoughts, and again, without watching film, I'm going to say we saw some bad stuff. Guessing a little bit here. One, Kool-Aid, we know he had some struggles. He gave up their longest pass play to Harrison. Gave up one later in the fourth quarter when we were trying to get a stop, and they were still moving the ball. And I believe it was a couple plays before Brzee blocked the field goal, where he's on McBride. McBride catches a pass and able to move, pick up yards and keep things moving. But I don't think he was alone in that. I think it's noticeable with him because, unfortunately, he plays a position where you give up a little bit, everybody notices it, especially in certain situations. But I think for the most part, you focus in, he played good run support. He had some really good coverage and was causing them problems. Probably the interference call in that first quarter on him, you probably didn't even need to tug that jersey. He was blanketing Harrison so well. So I know there were some good things in there, but those two showed up. And I also know that offensive line, obviously wasn't good enough to win the game because we didn't win the game. But I think along the lines, when I get a chance to look at some film, you'll probably find the same thing hidden in there. Some guys doing some things really good. And there's a couple I can think of that the video is going to show, oh man, that was bad. And it kind of just comes back to haunt you. I don't think Rattler was necessarily awful. Did have the one interception that gets wiped out because of the holding call on the other side of the field. But other than that, I don't think he ever really took the reins and overtook the game until those last 2 drives to really try to make some plays. And he was making very good throws and making plays in there. But I know that I'm saying that on the last 2 drives, that probably in the first 3 quarters, and go back and look, and you're going to find where he really did throw a couple dimes, make some really good decisions. I don't think it was all bad, but again, you lose the game, so it wasn't enough to help you win it. And you're going to find that on the defense, I think, also. Looking on the bright side, trying to find the positive and in this on that. Look, Brzee, that block field goal was the play of the day, I think. I don't know if anybody had a better individual effort. If Johnson comes up with on the second to last play, if he comes up and holds on to that ball, then that would be the play. And that's what it boiled down to is Johnson, who, was, I'm thinking prior to that, and probably still should be, is kind of the offensive MVP, had 8 catches for 76 yards. He moved some chains. Um, and he did a very good job, and that was not an easy catch. Do not get me wrong. And he had Buda Baker all over him trying to rip the ball out to make it even harder. But you're like, to win games like this, to pull it out, if not him, somebody has to step up and make a play like that caliber to be able to do it. We were literally inches away. So I also think the running backs looked good when we were still handing the ball till we got away from the running game. The average numbers look good. Neal only had 2 carries, thought he looked pretty good on both of them. But Miller and Alvin, when they touched the ball, they did make some things happen. I'm kind of hoping we, can get back into that. Let's try to establish the run and keep it rolling throughout the whole game. You might help Rattler in that passing game out, especially trying to get chances to spread the field. Maybe able to open some things up, but didn't work out that way for us today. Defensively, look, we brought a lot of pressure. You had 7 tackles for losses in the game. You broke up 5 passes, one of which was almost an interception because we batted one at the line that Blackman went diving in there and almost got his hands on for a pick. So you regularly had pressures throughout the game. On Murray, you kind of held him in check. He broke off a little bit at some times and caused some problems, but it could have been worse on some of those scrambles and rollouts and stuff. If you see him when he's really slinging it well, what he's capable of dropping, it could have been ugly. You think of the pass he missed wide open to Harrison over the middle when they were backed up on the goal line. He hits that, our back's broken. But I think the pressures and what we had him moving around had him under the thumb a little bit and kind of toned that down. Cam Jordan, 5 sacks on the day, 3 sacks, and then the 2 that we had talked about when I was doing the first half media reaction, where we were doing such a great job with eyes on, and that especially that first quarter, that he had nowhere to go with the ball, was feeling some pressure, was trying to scramble out, and we were having defenders run up to him, and where he went out of bounds once and slid once, and get credit for the sacks because he never made it back to the line of scrimmage. So I think overall that was very, very good. I think Cam Jordan and Carl Granderson were spectacular. Alante Taylor, who was somebody I was ready to put in the bag, going, man, we're expecting him to make big plays. We really hadn't seen a lot from him this game, and I don't know how many snaps he played because he's been banged up. But wow, that sack he made on Murray to give us the chance. Murray was about ready to spin out of there like he does to a lot of blitzers and set up something downfield to take off and run. And Taylor's like, no, not today, sir. Made a brilliant play on that. So I think there's going to be some good buried in there. Plays like Taylor, the sacks, stuff like that is easy to see, but I think there's going to be some hidden stuff in there, especially along that defensive line. I kind of get the feeling they may have played a lot better than overall as a group than just the guys that were getting the sacks and the plays you saw, the big plays that you could see. One thing to say about Granderson, too, he was incredibly good, also dropping in coverage out of that edge rusher position. So that's good to see. Hopefully Young Kick gets back soon. You got the 3-man rotation, I think, because they logged a lot of snaps today. I think you get 3 of them rotating through there and keeping them fresh, you could get them to play that much better. So that's what we have for you on this one. I'm glad I did do this. It's a little therapeutic. I'm giving myself a little therapy while doing this. So hopefully you're watching it and going, okay, yeah, we'll work through this together and get ready for the next part. So I will break down the film once it's released and I can look at it. May have to drop some stuff there, but I think it kind of clear up what we saw. Maybe it was worse, maybe it was better. I don't really know, other than my first impressions and the eye test from watching it on TV. But we're going to start prepping for San Francisco, too, in the middle of the week and getting ready for that game. They're coming to the Dome next week. I just hope we can have a clean game and not make all these screw up bad decisions, bad penalties and all that other stuff, and try to figure out what this team really is, really find itself, and quit shooting itself in the foot. So let me know down in the comments. Give me the honest ones. Hey, look, what's good, what's bad. There was some ugly stuff in there, and I probably could have put. And I have a feeling that once I watch the film, I'll be able to nail it down for sure. But let me know what you think. It could have been worse. As aggravated as I am about the whole situation, I acknowledge it could have been worse. But my problem is it should have been better. I don't know if we can get the win, but it should have been better because we just gave a team that's better than us, I think, on paper, just too many chances out of our stupidity, and it's crazy nuts. So we got for you today. I'll see you a couple more times this week. Till then, please, first time here, you like what you saw, please hit the like, share, subscribe, all those little buttons down there. Help me out with the algorithm and help keep the channel growing and heading in the right direction. So your support has been terrific and appreciated in everything that you can give me. And the thumbs up helps a lot, but also the comments. Let me know seriously what you saw good, what you saw bad, what you saw ugly, and we'll see what it looks like. But got a pretty good idea, I think, how most people are feeling about the game right now. But it is what it is. Hopefully, we'll be better next week against Frisco. So till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out and who dat.